Closer to Potomac.
Okay.
Cartmel, Silver Springs.
Right. Rabbi Barron in Silver Springs, right?
Yes.
I used to go to camp with a boy. He was a big fan of the Baltimore Orioles.
Yes.
I have a very dear friend who lives in the Baltimore area. His name is Avi Albrecht. He's a cantor, a very distinguished singer. The brother-in-law, Dudu Fisher, maybe, played Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. That's his brother-in-law. Is married to his sister. He's also. Okay. Joseph, where are the girls? Where's Chaya? Where's Chaya? She's always here.
Yeah, she's not gonna come.
What?
I think she's not gonna come.
Why?
I don't know, but sleepy.
Yosef, everybody knows the story of Yosef, such a special person, head and shoulders beyond his brothers. And all the attempts he made to be good with them backfired because, listen, they had one father, actually 4 mothers, two sisters, Rachel and Leah, and each of them had a handmaid, and they gave their handmaids at a certain point to Yaakov. They knew they were all prophetesses. They knew that there's going to be 12 children born from them. These are going to be the 12 tribes from which the Jewish people are going to descend. And there was a lot of hard feeling, jealousy between the sisters, caused by their father, who was a very tricky guy, Laban, a swindler, Laban the swindler, wicked Laban. Tried to destroy us as a people, tried to make sure we should never exist. We start off the Haggadah by mentioning him in Pesach. Laban tried to destroy our parents, wanted to destroy them, threatened to kill his son-in-law, Yaakov. And therefore tricked Yaakov into marrying the elder daughter, Leah. He worked for 7 years to marry Rachel, and then he pulled a switcheroo at the last minute, and he married Leah. And rather than humiliate her by saying, you tricked me, he said, okay, I'll work another 7 years to marry Rachel. But it caused a friction between the two sisters, which was very painful, and the friction extended to the children. And of course, Rachel couldn't have children for a long time. When she finally did have a child, that was Yosef. He was the most beloved one of his father. And his father, Yaakov, taught him everything that he had learned from his holy teachers. So he became the one that the holy tradition that descends in our family comes through Yaakov, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. From Yaakov to Yosef. And so Yaakov gave Yosef a special garment, famous cloak of many colors. And this caused hatred and jealousy amongst them. And every attempt he made to be close with them was misinterpreted and turned into anger and hatred, and eventually they wanted to kill him. Instead of killing him, because Reuven intervened, said, don't kill him. And then Yehuda said, Reuven had to go away to take care of his father's needs that day. While he was away, under the influence of Yehuda, he was the leader of all of the brothers. They sold him into Egypt. And Egypt was the most corrupt place in the world. Yosef was amazingly beautiful. He was purchased by Potiphar. Potiphar was the chief high executioner, a powerful noble. in charge of the criminals and dungeons and the slaughterer of animals for the royal household, royal home. He was purchased by him. I guess when he saw him and he said, I must have that beautiful young man. And he purchased him. But Yosef, everything Yosef did, he met with success. For those who speak, you speak a little Hebrew? None? He's called Ish Matzliach. Success is his middle name. Everything he did prospered. And before hardly any time, Potiphar put him in charge of everything in the house. Everything. But he was so appealing that Potiphar's wife also set eyes upon him and wanted him for herself. And she began trying to seduce him day and night, constantly. And Egypt was a place where everything went. Everything was okay. But he was Yaakov's son, and he resisted her. And it was very, very difficult. It was a very difficult test. Think of it. He's far, far away. He was kidnapped. He's far away from his father. His mother died. She had a second child. She died in childbirth. That was Benjamin. So Rachel had two children, Yosef and Benjamin. She died giving birth to Benjamin. So he has no mother. His father is out of contact with him, has no clue where he is. So far as his father is concerned, he was killed. And the brothers fooled their father in convincing him that a wild animal had attacked him and killed him. They showed him they slaughtered a goat because the blood of a goat looks like the blood of a human being. And they tore up the coat and dipped it in the blood, and they showed it to their father. He says, oh, and he tore his coat, garments, and he sat Shiva for his son. And there he is, betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave in a country where he's a stranger. He has nobody, no network of support. And here is this gorgeous, powerful, wealthy, noble woman who's after him. How did he resist? He's called Yosef HaTzadik, the righteous one. How did he not sin in the land of sin?
Because he had the fear of Hashem. He was really
right. So how did he have that? How did he have one? And everything he did met with success. When one day everybody went to their temple of idol worship, the palace was empty. He came to work and she said, I'm not feeling well today. She stayed home. And then she went after him and she grabbed him. And she tried to pull him with her. And he extricated himself and ran away, leaving his garment in her hands. Well, hell hath no fury, they say, like a woman scorned. She was scorned. So when her husband came home, she told everybody he tried to rape me. And her husband was furious and had him thrown in prison. He was in the dungeon in prison for 13 years. The same way, however, that he was so successful in everything he did, that Potiphar put him in charge of the whole house. Even in the prison, everybody liked him. So the person in charge of all the prisoners very soon also gave all the responsibilities over to him. And everybody was talking about him. And even in prison, Potiphar's wife used to come to him and say to him, if you'll come and be with me, I'll get you out of here. And he would refuse. And she arranged all kinds of tortures for him. She had a collar put around his neck, a metal collar with spikes on it under his chin, so he would look up because he didn't want to look at her. He would turn his eyes aside. How did he withstand this? Until eventually, the butler and the baker of Paroi were thrown in jail. Why were they thrown in jail? Because Hashem didn't like that his righteous subject, Yosef, was on everybody's gossip, was in everybody's discussions. So he made a billboard that there was a fly in the soup, and the steward, the butler, was thrown in jail for this disrespect of the king, serving the king a soup with a fly in it. And the bread had a little stone in it, a little pebble, or a tiny little bit of stone in it. The baker was thrown in jail. So the butler and the baker were thrown in jail. And Yosef was put in charge of them. And they liked him. He was nice. He was good to everybody. He cared about them. This is a great thing about him. He cared for everyone. He cared. One morning he comes to them and he sees they're very upset. Why are they very upset? They both had a dream the night before. Now Yosef got in trouble because of his dreams, because Yosef had two dreams. That he and his brothers were out in the field. Chaya, you with me? They're out in the field, they're gathering sheaves of grain, making bundles of grain, and all their bundles bowed down to his bundle. That was his dream. Then he woke up. The brothers didn't like it. They said, what, are we going to bow down to you? They understood the dream. And then he had a second dream that he was in the heavens, and the sun and the moon and the 11 stars all bowed down to him. So this made them hate him. Now the butler and the baker also had dreams. The butler dreamed that there was this vine, and there were 3 branches to the vine, a grapevine. And he was taking the grapes from the vine and squeezing out the juice, which became wine, in the goblet, and he served it to Pharaoh. And he woke up. And the baker had a dream that he had 3 baskets of delicious pastry on his head, and the birds were coming and eating pecking away at the pastry on his head. And they woke up. So they both had the same dream at the same time, and they both woke up. But not only they had their own dream, they also dreamed each other's dream. But you wake up, you forget the dream. So they knew that they'd had a dream, but they couldn't remember it. And they also had a second dream, which they couldn't remember. And they dreamed the meaning, they understood the meaning of their dreams, and they forgot everything. And so they were very disturbed. And he comes and he says, why are you guys so down in the dumps today? So they said, we had a dream, and we can't remember what it was. Well, wait a minute. The butler remembers his dream. And the baker hears it, and he says, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. I recognize that dream. Because they each dreamed each other's dream as well. So Yosef says, the 3 branches you saw are 3 days. They stand for 3 days. In 3 days, it was the 27th day of the month of Elul, just before Rosh Hashanah. 3 days is Rosh Hashanah. Happens to be the birthday of Pharaoh. Pharaoh is going to make a big party. And he's going to grant amnesty. You know what amnesty is? Forgiveness. He's going to grant amnesty, and you are going to be a free man. You're going to be reappointed back to your place as steward in charge of the king's food. Serving the king. You're going to serve the king again. When you go, said Yosef, please remember me to Pharaoh. I was kidnapped. I did nothing wrong. I'm here on false charges. We're trumped up by my master and his wife. Please remember me. Okay, he says, I will. And so it happened. He was freed. And he wanted to mention this to Pharaoh, that he interpreted his dream, and he forgot. Oh, how did I forget? He tied a string around his hand. Tomorrow I'm going to remember. And the next day, he forgot about the string, and he forgot. And every single day, he wanted to remember because he was grateful. And every single day, he forgot. Hashem made him forget. 2 years, Joseph had to stay in prison more. Why? Because he should have relied on Hashem and not relied on the baker, on the butler. Don't put your trust in bakers and butlers. That's the lesson. Mm-hmm. Put all your hope and trust in Hashem. After 2 years, what happened? Pharaoh had 2 dreams. That's this week's parsha. Pharaoh has 2 dreams. There's this beautiful, he's standing by the Nile. Now, the Nile is a source of life of all Egypt. Every year from the high mountains in Africa, 1,000 miles away, where the snows cover the mountains, the snows melt. Africa gets very hot. The snows melt, and the river Nile, the second longest river in the world, floods. And the Egyptians were very smart. Never rains in Egypt. What do? They dug irrigation channels, canals from the river. And every year when the river would flood in the spring, the channels will fill with water, and the fields had plenty of water, and Egypt became the breadbasket of the world. And that's why Egypt became so rich. Selling food, grain, bread to the whole world. Pharaoh, so the Nile becomes the god of Egypt because it's the source of their livelihood. And there's Pharaoh who identifies himself with the Nile. He says, I am the Nile, he says, and I made myself and I am God. That's Pharaoh's thing. And there he is standing by the Nile. This is a bit absurd, but it says so in the Medrash. The Pharaoh claimed that he was a god, and the proof was he never went to the bathroom. Never had to make, like we say. So what he used to do, he used to go visit his God every day. And it's to say he would bathe in the Nile, and then he would do what he had to do. The Nile's a big river, It's not just a little river. It's big. You can sail boats on the Nile. It's bigger than the Hudson. It's big, very, very big. So in his dream, he's standing by the Nile, and there are these beautiful looking cows grazing by the Nile. Beautiful. 7 of them. He sees it in his dream, and then what happens? The 7 terrible looking cows come up out of the river. They look horrible, disgusting, skinny, emaciated, diseased. They come and they attack the fat cows and eat them. And there's nothing left of them. Nothing. They completely disappear, and the skinny cows are as skinny as ever. And he woke up. And very upset. It's a terrible dream. He falls back asleep. He has a second dream. In the second dream, he sees a field full of wheat. And grain, beautiful grain, wheat, is growing on these stalks. Seven stalks of grain. By the way, these stalks, they look like this. They look like the Rambam menorah. 7. I've seen there is wheat that grows like that. And anyway, they have 7 stalks of wheat, and then comes after them 7 blasted stalks, look like they were beaten by a dry east wind, and they consume the good stalks of wheat, and there's no more of them, and he wakes up. And he's very upset, and he calls in his magicians and his wise men. What do my dreams mean? Tell me or you're out of a job. And so they say, well, we think it means you're going to conquer 7 countries and they're going to rebel. You're going to lose them. Didn't make sense to him. What did it mean? So then others came and they said, well, you're going to have 7 beautiful daughters and they're all going to die. But also, it didn't make sense to him. It didn't fit the dream. And then the butler says, oh, your majesty, today I remember my transgressions. I was in prison together with the baker. Oh, I forgot what happened with the baker's dream. Yosef said to the baker, the 3 baskets on your head full of delicious pastries stand for 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh is going to make a big birthday party, and he's going to lift up your head. And he's going to hang you from the gallows. That's it. Why? Why was the butler returned to his post? Because if a fly fell into the soup, it's not his fault. There's no negligence here. It's not nice. There's no negligence. But if a baker serves bread with a pebble in it, that could be life-threatening. You could break your tooth. You could swallow it. So that would deserve the death penalty. If you're serving a king, pebbles in the bread, so he dies. Another reason that we could say that Yosef understood that the baker's dream was different from the butler's. The butler's was a dream of life, and the baker's was a dream of death. Why? Because the butler was doing something. He was squeezing the grapes. He was making something productive, something useful, something delicious. The baker wasn't doing anything. He just had the baked goods, and the birds were pecking away at him, like the birds would peck away at a person who was hanging on the gallows. So that's how Yosef understood the dreams. And now the butler remembers 2 years later on Pharaoh's birthday that there was this Jewish kid in prison, and he speaks about him in very derogatory terms, anti-Semitic terms. And he understood our dreams. So Pharaoh says, let him come. And he comes and he tells him, he hears the 2 dreams, and he says, the 7 cows are 7 years. You're going to have 7 years of plenty. There's going to be plenty of grass, plenty of wheat. The 7 skinny cows are 7 years of drought. There's going to be nothing growing and no food. And similarly, the 7 stalks of wheat, the good stalks are for 7 good years, and the 7 blasted stalks are for 7 years of hunger. So therefore, really, those 2 dreams are not 2 dreams, they're 1 dream. And Hashem repeated them because he wants you to know that it's happening. It's going to happen immediately. And what is that? That you're going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So therefore, Hashem is instructing you what to do. Appoint somebody over the whole of Egypt to gather up all the food in the 7 years of plenty so that you'll have it in the 7 years of famine, because the famine is going to be very severe and there'll be no food left if you don't save it. There'll be no food available. And it says, I saw in the Medrash an amazing thing, that the famine hit like this, not gradually, overnight. It says people had food on their plate and suddenly the food went all spoiled. Instantaneously. The famine set in at the appointed day, like that. So Pharaoh says, This is amazing. I don't think I've ever met anybody so wise and understanding as this young man. And he takes off his ring and gives him his ring, and he gives him a chain of authority to wear around his neck. And he says, this person is going to be in charge of everything in my kingdom. No one shall lift a hand or foot without his say so. And overnight, Yosef becomes the ruler of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. The only thing I keep back from you is my throne. Just like in Potiphar's house, the only thing Potiphar kept back from Yosef was his wife. So overnight, Yosef is taken from the deepest dungeon, and he's made the king of the whole civilized world, second only to Pharaoh. Say our sages, that's what's going to happen when Mashiach comes, just like that. It's not going to be gradual. And everybody's going to see that it makes so much sense. Right now we're in exile, and we can't imagine how it's possible, and it's going to happen, and everybody's going to say, of course, why didn't we understand? So the Rebbe told us we're on the very verge of the redemption, the end of exile, and everything is going to be reversed. And this is all prophecy. These are not just stories. These are prophecies within prophecies. Yosef was a prophet. His dreams are prophecy. The dreams of the butler and the baker are also prophecies about the Jewish people. The three vines, for instance, are not just 3 days. They stand for Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This is the source of the Jewish people. It's going to give good wine for the whole world when Mashiach comes, and so on. The question now we started with was, how did Yosef remain righteous in such an environment and not fall? I want to suggest to you 3 answers that we see clearly in the story. Number 1, when Yosef was at home, his father Yaakov had spent 14 years learning in the yeshiva of Shem and Eber. Shem was the son of Noach. Noach had all the wisdom that was given to Adam and passed down to the righteous of each generation for the first 10 generations of the world. And he taught everything to Yaakov, and Yaakov taught everything to Yosef. Everything he knew. That made the brothers very jealous. But that was the knowledge he had, and he was constantly reviewing knowledge. 22 years, Yosef was in Egypt. 22 years cut off from his family. Next week's Parsha is about the reunification, how they come back together again. It was an amazing story. How did Yosef hold himself and in a manner of purity and not give in the slightest way? He never even allowed himself to touch or look at Potiphar's wife. You know, a woman once wanted to shake hands with the previous Rebbe, and he held back his hand. She says, "Why won't you shake hands with me?" She says, "I was raised this way, not to touch anything that doesn't belong to me." So the fact that Yosef was constantly reviewing the things that he learned with his father, that protected him. The Torah that he learned protected him. How do we know he was constantly reviewing? Because 22 years later, I'm not going to give you the details here because it'll be a little confusing for you, but he sent word to his father, but in a hint. He sent him wagons, and the word for wagons is the same word in Hebrew as the laws that they were learning, the last things that they learned 22 years earlier. It was just like he had just learned it that day. Just like people say who came to the Rebbe, Torah scholars came to the Rebbe, they said, any subject we spoke about, it was just as if the Rebbe had just put down the book before I came in. So that was one thing that protected him, was his constantly reviewing his Torah learning. The second thing that protected Yosef was his attitude. It says, Shem Shemaim Shogar B'fiv. That's Hebrew. It means the name of God was always on his lips. How are you? Baruch Hashem. Thank God. How's your family? Thank God. How's business? I thank the one above. How are you doing today? Thank the Almighty. My wife's grandmother, she lived to 106, and she never said a sentence without Hashem's name in it. That's what it means. The name of God was always on his lips. So since the name of God was always on his lips, where do we see this? When he came to the butler and the baker and they were down in the dumps and we had these terrible dreams, you don't know what they mean. He said, well, what were your dreams? Do you interpret dreams? He said, no, I don't interpret dreams. But maybe Hashem, maybe God will reveal to me what the dreams are. I have no ability to interpret dreams. Maybe Hashem will reveal. So all the interpretations that Yosef gave, he just said, that's what Hashem told me. Similarly, when people would come to thank the Rebbe for blessings that he gave, a blessing to get married, a blessing to have children, a blessing for somebody to recover, a blessing to get out of Russia. And it would happen. And they would come to the Rebbe to say, thank you for your blessings. He said, don't thank me, thank God. Over and over and over again. We see this in the videos. The Rebbe doesn't take any credit for anything he does. He just says, thank God. And that was like Yosef. Yosef was a saint. So since the name of God was always on his lips, we see it from the story, that protected him. And the third thing was very deep concept. It says, when Yosef told his dreams to his family, his father knew that it caused his brothers to hate him, and he loved him. So he tried to play it down. And he said, what do you think, that your mother and I are going to come and bow down to you? Your mother died when your brother was born. How can she come and bow down to you? So he tried to play it down. But the Torah then goes on to say, but really, he didn't forget about it. He kept it in his heart and he kept it in his mind. And Rashi comments on that he kept the thing in his mind means he was constantly waiting and hoping for when will the day come that Yosef's prophecies are going to be fulfilled and I'm going to be reunited with him. Just like we wait and expect the whole time for Mashiach to come, Yaakov was living and waiting for 22 years every single day. Is today going to be the day? He knew in his heart that Yosef was going to come out on top, just like he came out on top of everything, and he was going to be united with him, and all the prophecies were going to come true. And Yosef, so connected to his father, knew that if that's how my father is thinking, so I should also be thinking the same way. And when Potiphar's wife grabbed his cloak and he was almost ready to give in to her, he suddenly looked up, and there in the window he saw his father's face, and that saved him. So the fact that he knew that his father always believed in him, and this is a very important lesson for us in raising our children. Our children have to know that we believe in them. Many times you hear stories about children from good families who get into trouble. They say, how does a person like you end up in such terrible trouble with drugs or who knows what else? So, well, my teacher always told me I was no good. My mother always used to say, you're going to end up in big trouble. So when trouble came my way, I knew that this is what my mother said. I'm going to end up in big trouble. So I did it. So can we never, ever, ever criticize a child? Never tell a child they're no good. Always tell a child that they're good, they're good, they're good, and focus on their potential. That was the great thing of the Rebbe. The Rebbe saw everybody came to the Rebbe from all walks of life, from the biggest geniuses, military experts, businessmen, ordinary people, unlettered people. The Rebbe saw the potential in them and tried to help them to realize their potential. And that's the thing in Yosef's life, that he knew his father always believed in him, and that gave him the strength to withstand every test. And that's, what do we learn from this? We learn from this is not a story about 3,300 years ago. Actually, 3,700 years ago. It's our story. And our father, Yaakov, the father, that's the Rebbe. And we have to know that the Rebbe believes in us, and the Rebbe has empowered us and given us the most important mission of all, which is through doing acts of kindness and learning Torah to bring Moshiach and end the exile. Have a wonderful Shabbos and a happy Hanukkah. Now you can share that with